So those comments from the Prime Minister came yesterday. Today, that was followed up with an announcement from, or a release from his office, saying that his parliamentary secretary, an MP from Nova Scotia, Cody Bloys, would accompany the Premier of Saskatchewan and his delegation to China later this week on a trade mission. China has levied very punishing tariffs on the canola industry in particular. And we are joined now for more information on that trade mission by Saskatchewan's Premier Scott Moe. Premier Moe, pleasure to welcome you back to our program. Thanks for making the time.
Good to see you, Bessie.
I wanted to start off and ask about sort of the objective of your trade mission to China, and in particular, if the goal of the trip is to get the tariffs on canola removed, and whether China has given you any indication that that is a possibility.
That would be ideal. That being said, I don't know that there's going to be a subnational leader, including myself, that will have the opportunity at the end of a couple days in China, even with the parliamentary secretary, Cody Bloy, with me, to stand up with President Xi and say, we have removed the trade disagreements that we have. The goal of the trip, I think, more realistically, is for us to pull forward any opportunity for Canada and China, or our Prime Minister and President Xi, to actually have that conversation on not only canola, pulses, pork, and seafood, and removing potentially those tariffs, but actually, what does the trade relationship look like more broadly between Canada and China moving forward? And that's the relationship and the conversation that I think needs to happen. And what we're trying to do is to pull that conversation forward so that it happens sooner rather than later.
And is it your view, or has it been communicated to you, that the federal government, that the Prime Minister in particular, wants that conversation to happen?
I've been in constant conversation, not only with the Prime Minister, but a number of other elected ministers, MPs, as well as some unelected folks that are working in and around the PMO's office and the government. We've been quite, I think, pleased. We'd like to see, obviously, everything happen sooner, but quite pleased with the engagement that we have, not only from the Prime Minister, but, for example, the announcement of Cody Bloy joining us on our mission on very short notice, as we'll be leaving on Saturday to find our way to China. Ideally, it would be great if this all just went away tomorrow, but it is going to take some work and it is going to take some time. And it is going to take subnational governments or provincial governments like myself working alongside and supporting our federal government, because it is going to be the government of China and its leader, and the government of Canada and our leader, that ultimately are going to bring this broader trade relationship to a head. We want that to happen as soon as possible.
So I know for people watching, many of them understand kind of the back and forth between China and Canada that led to these tariffs on canola and other agricultural products, as you put it. But for those who aren't aware, last year Canada put tariffs on Chinese-made EVs, and a large part of the response from China is to do with that. It is in response, I should say, to those initial tariffs. They've also brought in, claims of, anti-dumping and things like that. But, primarily it's about the electric vehicle tariffs. I know that you have put forward the view that those tariffs should be removed, so that the tariffs that apply to sectors in your province could also be removed at the same time. But the initial tariffs that we put in place were there for a reason, Premier, right? They were there because we were working in concert with the United States, because China is heavily subsidizing the sector and our own industry couldn't compete. Is it really a good decision to even put that on the table?
Yeah, and my words were, if it was only Saskatchewan's decision, certainly we would have those tariffs removed. However, it is not. There are actually indirect and direct consequences to any decision like that. For example, our largest market, our largest canola market, and as a matter of fact, is not China, it's the United States of America. And we put on tariffs on steel, aluminum, and EVs to align ourselves with the United States of America. And so, herein lies the challenge of the dance that we need to perform as Canadians and as a Canadian government, and we need to support this effort in preserving our largest market for canola, I'll speak to specifically, which is the United States of America, but also having access to our second largest market, which is in China, as well as many other markets around the world. This is a consequence of a president that is very much working to reset the United States of America's trade relationship with many countries all at once. And so there's direct and indirect impacts, and we have to be in the middle of those conversations. And what we are doing is trying to bring that particular conversation with China forward so that it happens sooner rather than later. But this is not an environment that isn't riddled with challenges and balances and gives and takes for all industries. It's ours, unfortunately, the canola industry, that's being impacted at the moment.
And certainly I wouldn't want to take away from the impact on the canola industry or the other agricultural sectors that are being impacted. But just to be clear on your position, I understand that you're there to articulate the interests of your province, but do you want the federal government, for example, to actually do that? Like it isn't just Saskatchewan that would be impacted. Do you want them to remove the EV tariffs? And how will that play with the United States at a time where you just pointed out how important that export market is? I think we exported more in June to Texas than we did to all of China. So if we all of a sudden get offside with the United States, which is still very adversarial with China when it comes to trade, like, is that really a wise decision in the long run, even if in the short term it does help canola producers?
There's a different way for this, to find its way to a resolution. Let's support Dominic LeBlanc in his efforts to find some certainty in our trade relationship with the United States of America, and then we will know precisely how we can engage with a country like China in very short order. And so we have this instability in our U.S. trading partner. We have instability now in our trading partner of our markets that we have been able to access in China. And I'd say there's some instability in other markets around the world as well. And so the sooner that we're able to get to a place of certainty, at least for the time being, with the United States of America, our largest trading partner both ways, I think it's going to provide us a framework for how we're going to be able to engage with countries like China. Our whole goal is to bring the entirety of that conversation, whether it be with the USA, whether it be with China or other markets. Let's try to bring that bring that about as quickly as possible to provide certainty for the industries that are creating jobs and creating wealth. And we're starting to see some economic indicators, not only south of the 49th parallel, but now in Canada, that are, telling us we need a resolution to all of these trade-related challenges right now.
And I certainly would agree that the data would lead us to tell a story of let's get out of this mess. But with great respect, I have to ask, that vision that you present of certainty with the United States, I think would sound like fantasy to a lot of Canadians right now.
Well, I hope it isn't fantasy. They're our largest trading partner, and it needs to become reality very, very quickly. And I know Minister LeBlanc is doing his level best, as is the Prime Minister, engaging with the Trump administration and the President directly. But we do need that certainty. We've always been quite straightforward and quite blunt with Saskatchewan's view about the importance of our non-tariff trading relationship with a country like the United States of America, but also the importance for us to have access in those markets abroad. Our province of 1.25 million exports to over 160 countries around the world. We're the largest per capita exporting region in North America. And so, these trade-related challenges are not entirely new to our province of Saskatchewan. However, they're on more products, they're at a deeper level in more countries. And so this is, a challenging conversation for our federal government. And that's why you see me, and you haven't seen me the last 10 years, coming out and supporting a federal liberal government in the efforts and the initiatives in this international space. But I certainly am today, and I wish them every success, because a success for Canada today is certainly a success for all 10 provinces in the 3 territories and all of the Canadians from coast to coast to coast. And so we're doing our level best to find a much more certain trading environment with all of our partners around the world, and to support our federal government in doing so. And that's a new space for me.
You're right. It feels like a little bit of an alternate universe, even in my interviewing you at this time. I have just one final question for you, Premier, and it's actually kind of jumping off what you mentioned about the federal government, and it's something that I think a lot of Canadians will listen to as we hear the Prime Minister say that he's looking for an expanded trade relationship. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially what he said with China. As we hear you talk about, your endeavors with China, I'm not negating the potential significance of China as a trading partner, and in particular as an export market, given its size. But what we also heard from this Prime Minister, someone who is briefed at the highest level of national security during the federal election campaign, when he was asked during the debate, what is the biggest security threat to this country, his answer was China. How do you reconcile for Canadians who hear that and are worried about our national security that we should kind of turn a blind eye and instead increase our trade with a partner that we just said was the biggest threat to our national security?
It's commodity-based sales is simply what it is. We're selling them canola oil, canola meal, potash, things of that nature. We are the larger, I believe Saskatchewan is the largest exporter, not only into China, but also into countries like India. And if we're truly going to in any way diversify additional production away from the United States of America, for example, Europe is, yes, one of those markets. Many of the ASEAN countries are some of those markets as well. But it is going to have to include India and China. They're some of the largest, populous countries in the world and some of the largest economies in the world, and so we are going to have to separate some of the other conversations that we have with countries from where we are selling our products, around the world. And maybe we can. We have been able to in the years gone by, but we should at least engage to find out whether or not we can. And that's what Parliamentary Secretary Cody Valoy and myself will be trying to open up those conversations as we move forward. You may be right. There may not be a path there, and maybe eternally changed our relationship, not only with China, but the United States of America. We're going there to find out.
Okay, Premier, I will leave it on that note. Safe travels. Hope to talk to you on your return. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vashi.